as mentioned, this past weekend, Rocky won his first major tournament, and that means I think we now have the most unique major winners we've had in a year ever for Ultimate's lifespan. Now, obviously, Ultimate's only really been a competitive game for 4.5 years due to pandemic taking quite a bit of time, but we're going to take a bit of a history lesson look at these past major winners throughout the years and kind of compare how each season changes in terms of its diversity and both the characters and the players who are finding success. I'm going to combine these because 2020 is, not a real season. It's very small. It's like a 2-month, 3-month season in all technicalities. So I'm going to combine this all into 1 year. If he attended the tournament, he was the very likely candidate to win, and that was Leo and his Joker. At the time, the broken DLC character that people were getting upset at fighting against and taking the energy out of Ultimate. And it's funny how much things have changed since then. Also during this time, Wario was actually a pretty popular character, not just due to Tweak's 6 wins, but also found under Gluttony and Abadango. This is probably the only year where we saw major winners from Wolf and Zero Suit Samus, Palu and Pichu, Mega Man, characters that just didn't really find success after the pandemic due to both DLC introduction and how much the meta changed, obviously, and how different players joined. Wario was popular in Japan at the time. Oh yeah, Wario was very popular. Actually, I think it's EVO 2019 where you just see like a line of Japanese players in the top 16 playing Wario. I think it was like Abadango and Niatono was playing Wario, and there was Kameme also, I think, made a high placement with Wario. So character was super popular during this time frame. But yeah, Leo was a majority holder, but there were still players like Tweak and Zachary and Mars who all won their fair share of tournaments. A lot of people forget that Shuton's an EVO winner, won EVO Japan in 2020, tournament that not a lot of people might remember because it was the same weekend as the Genesis that year, as well as, right before the pandemic. But Shuton also had quite a few wins, as well as Kameme and Nairo. Out of the 40 major winners, there was 16 players, and that's a pretty cool spread considering even that Leo was the dominant one. There were still quite a few players capable of winning. Some over Leo, some not, but still, there's a lot of players here who, for a first year of a game, was quite diverse outside of that one player who felt like it was dominating everything. Now we're going to skim the next part quickly because it's kind of hard to talk about 2021 just due to the fact that not a lot happened. And it's just mainly because the season didn't really kick off until September with Riptide. Or like there wasn't really a major tournament until then. Leo still had, the high sharehold of tournaments. He was still finding a bunch of wins with his Byleth. But standing behind him was Proto Bonham, not too far along. 4 different major titles, biggest being Kaguribi 4, I think around like August time. And you'll also see some familiar names from earlier on like T and Tweak, Esam all showing up, but there's 2 new ones who didn't win a major prior. Light finally finding his first at Super Smash Con Fall Fest, and Cola winning CEO 2021, and Cola was like one of the best players during the online era as well, so it's like it was gonna happen. People were pretty expectant of it showing up. And then the most funny one being Zachary finding a solo Sora major win, and the only one that Sora has seen. I think it was like a week or 2 after his release. But yeah, 2021, not a lot to talk about in terms of its variety of major wins, just due to the fact that there wasn't a lot because we're just coming out of pandemic. But it was setting the stage for 2022. And 2022 is an interesting year because there are definitely a lot of majors, but they're also across the globe due to circuits. So 2022 matched 2019 in the amount of majors, 2019/2020 in the amount of majors that happened in a singular year. It was a pretty stacked year in terms of just raw competition, just due to the fact that you had the Smash World Tour circuit and the Panda circuit. So players were just traveling and attending everything to qualify for the championships for both events due to the big prize pools at the end of the year and the prestige that comes with qualifying. And in these major winners, once again, but now tied actually for the top, you still have MKLeo, who is dominating with his Byleth, won the biggest tournament, probably what was one of the biggest tournaments of the year with the Ludwig Smash Invitational. By far one of the most prestigious due to how many top players were there. But he was tied with a brand new face, someone who started competing in 2022, and that is, at the time of recording, the current #1 player, Akala. Akala sprang on the scene, winning Kaguribi 7, and would just keep finding wins the entire year across the globe, and was proven to be easily the next player in the line to MKLeo to maybe finally dethrone him from this top spot. But then also behind him winning 5 and finally finding his major win after being stonewalled by Leo for so long with Spargo. And you kind of had that 3 trio taking up the most wins through this time period. But they weren't the only ones, and you can see compared to 2019, the diversity of winners grew a lot. You had familiar names return. T and Zachary were still finding multiple wins. Proto, now main with Min, was finding more. And then you had others like Gluttony, Light, and Tweak all finding at least one this year. Who has to be the most unexpected major winner until Rocky won. You also had some really interesting one-offs that I think are the only major wins these players found. Cosmos winning Glitch Infinite after going on a hot streak in 2021. Ken winning Battle BC4. Yoshidora winning Maisuma Top 8. Bloom Forever winning VCA 2022, and then introduction of new faces who found multiple major winners. Onin, also probably honestly a pretty unexpected one, winning Get On My Level and then taking Super Smash Con. I think Onin kind of was and then an introduction of Mia, who would start trailing as Aqua's rival and the second best player, winning Kagaribi 8. We won't really see Mia come to full form until kind of next year. Then other faces who have won, we're going to see later down the years, also show up, like Sonics and Riddles, winning their major CEO and Big House respectively. But yeah, 2022 becomes the most diverse year because there are so many opportunities to play a bunch of top players and larger events just due to the circuits and due to how much people wanted to travel. It didn't feel as compact of like a person dominating the scene as 2019 did because of Leo, and it didn't unfortunately stay that way because 2023, when both of the circuits get canceled, motivation shifts and a new crop of players show up, or not new, but new ones decide to take over. Because in 2023 you see that the amount of winners drops significantly, and there's 4 people, as you can see at the top, that got dubbed briefly as, sillingly and briefly as the 4 horsemen of Ultimate. Mia, Aqua, and Spargo were just winning almost, if not, yeah, they win more than 50% of the majors that year. They were the dominant forces of the scene. And while Sonics didn't win as many as them, he was almost consistently always in the top 8. You weren't ever going to really see a major top 8 that he attended where he wasn't there. We have 1 new major winner still this season. You had Zomba winning Crown. But the rest are familiar faces. The game doesn't feel as competitive as it used to be anymore because there's just a clump of players mainly winning everything. But that all changes. Because in 2024, as I mentioned, it becomes the most diverse year in Ultimate's lifespan. 2024 now sits with the most diverse pool of major winners that we've seen in Smash Ultimate. 2022 held the record first with, I believe it was 18. Yep. 18, and then now we currently sit at 20 for 2024, and unfortunately I don't think that number is increasing because we're probably not seeing any other winners, because I don't think there's going to be any other majors, or if we do, it's probably just going to be Obaitori, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to like Raru or Snow or whatever. Sure, it might look like Mia is the dominated force of Ultimate right now with 11 major wins compared to everyone else's, but a lot of those major wins are definitely on the smaller side compared to some others, so unless you are actively watching Japanese tournaments, it doesn't really feel like Mia's winning all this much, especially now that we're later into the year. I think Mia only has like 5 in this season, so a lot of that definitely comes from the first half as well. But the rest of the pool is very spread out. Sure, Mia might have like a 4th of them, but Spargo only sits with now 5, and there's quite a few other players who actually have more than 2 or more than 1. Tweak has 3, Aqua has 3, Herd has 3, Raru has 3, and Raru is a brand new name this year, and he's already won 3 different ones. We also get brand new names like Shattuck and Udace and Shiny Mark and Doramigi, Tama P, Ashimo, Crepe Saleh, Rocky, and returning ones that we haven't seen in a bit like Cola. I think just Cola, honestly, but yeah, that's a good point. Even now, Mia has also slowed down going to some of those majors. He's not attending every Sumabato. So the pool has grown a lot in its diversity, and honestly, right now, I think competitive Ultimate is as tough as it can be. It is as diverse as it could be, and so many people, not even listed here right now, can win a major. I think that's going to be really interesting going into 2025 because it doesn't really feel like there's a player who strangleholds this metagame anymore. We're kind of finally out of that era where it doesn't feel like there's an MK Leo or an Aqua or a 4 Horsemen where every tournament is going to be it's going to be one of those players no matter what. Like, no, it can be anyone in that top like 25-30 echelon, because we're just in that point of the life game where everyone's caught up. Yeah, this era of Ultimate is, I think, the most interesting Ultimate's ever been. 2023 felt like such a burnout year because of what happened at the end of 2022. I mean, yeah, that's essentially what it was. A lot of people fell out of love in the game, and there's a lot of players who don't really compete from that time frame anymore, and it's understandable. It's 100% understandable. It is interesting that we're in the era that we're in now. It doesn't feel like 2018 Smash Wii U, where Bayo took over everything. It feels like its own thing. It's brand new, and it's super exciting. And I think 2025 is just going to be just as interesting as a year, because there's a lot of players who are stepping up to the plate, and that margin of difference in competition just isn't there. It's not what it used to be. And I think that's going to be super exciting from a spectator standpoint for this game. And I think Ultra right now is actually in the pretty healthy place. We're finally over, I feel like, that hump of people bitching about characters like they did in 2023. I think people have finally accepted the game that Ult is, and those who are still playing and those who are still passionate about it are shining through, and it's making the game really interesting to watch.